Hello everyone, so today I'm changing it up a little bit by doing a book review. This is my book, Strange Battles of the Civil War by Walt Garrison Jr. Oh boy, this book. What I should make a quick addition is that this book was also aided from Webb Garrison, who is, as you could suspect, Webb Garrison Jr.'s father, but sadly he passed away due to cancer. But before that, he helped write a large portion of this book. Now, before I get into my actual review of this, I'm going to say the pros and cons of the book in general. The pros of this book is there are lots of maps and lots of pictures. Very detailed maps, very detailed pictures with nice captions to help the reader understand what they're looking at if they're not an avid history reader like myself, who can see a picture of somebody and know exactly who they are and know if they fought for the North or the South and yada yada yada, all that stuff. The cons: bouncing back between the war period, between early war and late war. It bounces back between 1861 to 1865. There are many chapters in this book that I perused through that, again, I'll explain why I perused through later on, but it went from 1863 to May of 1865. And it just, I don't like that. I don't like it when books bounce back and forth between years because it confuses the reader. And if you have confusion early on, it's just going to set that tone for later on in the book. Next one is no interpretations. There's no examples of the author's point of view in this book. There's no examples of the author taking a backseat in his narrative and discussing, what's being said, or putting it in terms that are more simpler to understand for people that don't sit there and read the official records and just sit through all this laborious research to be able to find some simple fact of when a battle took place and how many supposedly died. The biggest, biggest con is block quotes. It's running rampant through this book, and this is what I really, really detest, is block quotes. Don't use block quotes. Don't do it. It makes your writing seem unprofessional. It makes your writing not seem as stewardly. And it just makes the reader feel you're just filling up space with a huge quote. I mean, I'm okay with quotes being, maybe 10 or 25 words at maximum. But when it's 30 to 40 to even 50 words, when it's half a page, or when it's an entire page of a block quote, I'm like, no. Stop that. The last con is the battles that are being explained. There are a total of 7 battles, and they aren't really visually appealing. Like, none at all. There's no visual. There's no hearing the sounds of the musketry volley, feeling the pounding sensation of the cannons blasting off, seeing the blood-soaked battlefield and the screams and the groans of men calling out for help. There was none of that. None of that in this book. And it's just as if the author, or the authors I should say, just went a very bland, and I don't want to say lackluster, but it's borderline on lackluster effort. I mean, I understand they probably did a lot of research into it, but it's it's not appealing. I'm not gonna read this book again. I'm not. Sorry to say that. It's the first book I'm not gonna be reading again. I'll probably donate this book. Now for my official review. I'm disappointed with this book in particular. I couldn't get past the fifth chapter. Could not get past it without closing the book for the final time. I rarely, once I start a book, I rarely close it. The only time I close it is when I usually have to stop reading because it's time for bed, or I have some other things I have to do. But it was, a nice kind of boring day. I didn't really have anything to do, so I just sat down and read the book, and I kept closing it every chapter because I was like, what is this? What is this book trying to teach? What is this book trying to argue? There's no sense of an argue. There's no sense of an interpretation. There's no sense of just it's so bland. There's no grandeur. There's no epitaph. There's the high pulse. You can't keep your eyes off it reading, and that was missing in this book, and it sucks. It really does suck. And what makes matters worse is, despite this book written by historians, a father and son pair, both historians, the book in question has block quotes. Has not just one block quote, there's a block quote on every other page. And it's truly a shame to see that. It truly is. Perhaps I'm being a bit too nitpicky, but this is a major turnoff for me. And rarely do I ever have this happen to me in books. And I just couldn't get past it. I really couldn't. So this book receives the following rating of a 5 out of 10. It's an average book on my scale. And the only reason this is not receiving a 4 out of 10 is because it was written by historians. If it was not written by historians, this would be receiving a 4 or 3. Just no. It's the only reason. The only reason it is not receiving a 4. I expected better. I really did. I expected better from historians. Granted, this book was written back in 2000, and a lot of research has been uncovered over the years, but nevertheless, do not put block quotes in a historical book. If I want to see block quotes, I will go to the official records. I would go there. Because it's filled with block quotes, because it's exactly what the generals and the officers and the civilians and the soldiers said during the war. So you're gonna expect block quotes. It's going to be very bland. It's going to be without imagery. It's going to be very orderly, fashioned, and militaristic. There's not going to be grandiose images of battle. They're going to stick to the facts, and they're going to list everything that happened. Again, it's all quotes because it's all coming from somebody else's mouth. It's not an interpretation. So again, this book receives a 5 out of 10. I'm very, 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 very disappointed with the strange battles of the Civil War offered by Webb Garrison Jr. and, alas, the late Webb Garrison. Truly, words cannot describe my frustration of this book. And usually book reviews for me take at least a month to 2 to actually generate. This book took me less than a week. And that was with school. I mean, I just got done with finals last week. So after my finals was done, I then started reading it last Friday. I got through with it in 4 days because I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't take it anymore, and it's horrible when that happens to a book. And I don't know. Again, I'll see you guys next on my next book review. Catch you guys next time. See ya.